is Donna, and my camera person is once again Monica, and she is very picky about what's in my background. So how is my background, y'all? Today we are gonna make Bubble Squeak. And Bubble Squeak is one of those things that we used to have all the time when I was a kid, and another one of those names that my mother called stuff that not anybody else called. To me, Bubble Squeak is what most people call either American chop suey or I guess American goulash. But I looked up Bubble and Squeak because that's what Aunt Susan and Aunt Peggy said, maybe you should look it up. So I looked it up, and it actually is a British dish with cabbage and vegetables fried. Has nothing to do with what I consider as Bubble and Squeak, but that's what they called it. But this is what we're gonna make. So what we have today, right now I have the water on the stove for the pasta because this is a pasta dish. I have a fry pan out, a colander to strain. We have a pound of hamburger. Now I'm using shell because that's what we had. Again, it's the quarantine and you get what you get and you don't throw a fit. So we're gonna have shell. Usually I use elbow macaroni. I have some chopped onions and then a bunch of different spices. You can use whatever spices that you want. I've got a little sugar bowl that I made, the sugar bowl, then it broke. Do you see the cracks in it? Oh my gosh, but we fixed it. And then we have some onion, oregano, garlic, and then this is Italian seasoning, salt and pepper. And then we have diced tomatoes. Now again, you can use any kind of diced tomatoes that you want. You can use spicy diced tomatoes or regular diced tomatoes, and then tomato sauce. When my mother used to make this recipe, she also added tomato paste. But again, we don't have any tomato paste right now. We just have these two, and we're gonna make do with what we have. Because you get what you get and you don't throw a fit. So we're gonna start with the water. We've got just a little bit of water in the pan here, enough for to cook the pasta. We have it on getting ready to boil, and we're heating that up. And while this is heating up, we're going to get the sauce ready. I'm gonna start with the onions. So I am going to put a little bit of butter in the pan because I like butter. Now you can use oil if you want, or shortening if you want as well, but I like to use butter. So we're gonna put the butter in the pan, and we're gonna just start heating this up a little bit, and then we're going to cook the onions until they are a little translucent. Which means the light can go through it, but you can't see through it. So we gotta wait a little bit while the pan heats up, and we will be right. See, the onions are starting to get a little bit translucent. They have a little bit to go. But while we're continuing to cook these a little bit, this is when you can also add some garlic. If you're a big fan of garlic, you can add a little bit of garlic, minced garlic at this time. I mean, I like garlic, but I'm not a huge fan, but I'm gonna use some garlic powder in there. I wanna give a big shout out to the cafeteria ladies where I used to go to school, because this is something that we used to also have at school, and I would say that that was some of the best school cafeteria food that you could ever get. Those ladies would get up in the morning and home cook every single one of our meals in every day other than the baked bean day, which I never ate. Everything was always good. I loved their yeast rolls more than anything. I wish I could have that recipe. Anyway, so we are, I just want to give a shout out because they were so good. I mean, that was really good food. All right, so now we've got the onions, and I'm going to go ahead and put in the ground meat. And again, at this point of ground meat, you can use ground turkey if you want, or you can use other things. I just always have liked ground meat in mine, but you can do it. I've done it with ground turkey before. It just wasn't as flavorful. So I'm just going to now cook this in. I'm going to turn the heat down a little teeny bit here. And I'm going to start cooking the meat. Now at this point, I'm going to break up the meat. Gonna chunk it up. Smash it, smash it, smash it, smash it. Then I'm going to try to mix the onions in. with the meat as well. And this is where you want to start to put some seasoning into the meat. Oh look, the water's getting ready to boil. Woo! All right, so I'm going to tell you right now that traditionally this just had salt and pepper in it because that's the kind of cook my mom was. But I put a bunch of other stuff in it. So I've got my pepper grounder, so I'm going to put in pepper. And this is completely up to you. You could put a lot of pepper in or a little pepper in. And then I'm going to put some salt in. Give it a little stir. Keep it going. All right, then again, this is your preference. I'm going to put in a little onion powder. And I'm going to put in a little bit of oregano because it's an Italian dish. Well, it seems Italian to me with the tomatoes and pasta in it. So I'm going to put a little oregano in. And some garlic powder. And then I have a Italian herb seasoning grinder.
Okay, there we go.
So I'm going to put some of this in.
I'm glad you put that in because I was going to say the only thing that made it Italian was that your camera crew was Italian.
Italiano! When my camera crew first went to Maine, and the first time I go, hey, do you want to go get an Italian? And she was like aghast because she actually is Italian. And she was like, an Italian? What is that? And I was like, oh my God, it's the best sandwich ever. So we went on down to Sam's in Lewiston, and we got her an Italian sandwich.
It was good.
Which, by the way, I really miss. And every time I go home to Maine, the first thing I do is go get an Italian sandwich. All right, so now I've got the seasoning in here, and I am just continuing to brown the ground meat and get everything nicely mixed up. Woo, woo, it's getting hot. It's too hot, baby. You gotta run for cover, you gotta run for shade, cause it's too hot. All right, I'm gonna keep going with that, and we can see that the water is starting to bubble up, bubble. So in another little bit, I am going to go ahead and put the pasta in. I'm gonna take a little break from filming while I'm gonna drain the ground meat. You don't want to put all this fat, so whatever little bit of fat that you have here in the pan, depending on what type of ground meat you use, you might have more than others, but you want to drain that before you go ahead and put in the tomato products. I'll be back. We're back, and I have drained the ground meat, and the water is boiling and ready to go. So I'm gonna get the pasta. This is a half a bag. We already used half of this bag. So this is just half a bag of, let's see, how many? 16, so this is about 8 ounces of pasta. And I'm gonna go ahead and dump in the shells and give it a little stir. And now I'm going to go ahead and put the tomato products into the ground meat. And I have a can of, again, diced tomatoes. And I'm gonna dump that in, and tomato sauce. And again, if you wanna put some tomato paste into this to thicken it up a little bit, you can do that. Normally that is what I would do, but I just don't have any right now. So we're gonna make do without it. Now, we're gonna let this simmer for a while the pasta is cooking. And a little secret that a little Italian woman, not Monica, but another little old Italian woman that I knew one time told me to put a little bit of sugar in your tomato sauce, and it cuts the acidity of it. So I just sprinkle a little teeny bit of sugar into the tomato sauce, and that's all. And again, you don't have to do that. All of that is up to your taste. And I get it all mixed together, and then I put the lid on it, and I just kind of let that simmer while the pasta is cooking. Then I give the pasta a little stir again, and now we're gonna set the timer for, I don't know, 6 or 7 minutes. Alexa, could you set a timer for 7 minutes?
7 minutes, starting now.
We'll be back. Well, the timer is almost up, and I just checked a piece of the shells, and it is almost there. While I was away, I also got some bread ready because I love eating mine with some bread, and I made this bread last week. It's rosemary bread that I picked the rosemary out of our own backyard. It's very good and yummy, and it tastes good with some bread. There's the timer. Alexa, enough, stop. Thank you, Alexa. Appreciate it. Stop. What is wrong with her? All right, so now, again, I will probably just pull one of these out and check it. It's a little hot right now. I'm not Rachel Ray. I can't eat it when it's 1,000,000 degrees. Alexa, stop. She's so insistent. Okay. Perfecto. All right, so I'm going to turn the heat off on that and get out something so I don't burn myself. And I'm going to drain the pasta in the colander. Now I don't wait too long or rinse it in water or anything, because I saw on a cooking show one time that you're supposed to put the water that you boiled the pasta in back in with it to help keep it stick. So I just put some of it back in right like that. It's fine. It's all good. So I have the pasta. That was my shoe. Just so that you know, it was my shoe. Now I'm going to turn the heat off on the tomato sauce. And I'm going to give it a little bit of a stir, and I'm going to dump it right into the pasta. I like to dump it into the pasta this way because this pan is usually bigger and then it won't spill over. And then I'm going to mix it up, stir, 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 and this is pretty much it. This is what I always called Bubble Squeak as a kid. And thought it looked, with elbow macaronis, it kind of looked like a bubble that squeaks, and that's where I thought the name came from, but I don't know where that name came from, and neither did my aunts that I asked. So this is what I've always considered as Bubble Squeak or American chop suey. At this point, you can serve it, and we usually eat it in a bowl. Many people at this time will put it in a casserole and then cover it with cheese, because who doesn't like some melted cheese, and then put it in the broiler and let the melted cheese like bubble up and then eat it like that, which is darn yummy. Or you can serve it up and put some Parmesan cheese on it. And that is Bubble Squeak. Thanks for tuning in on Donna's Delightful Dishes. See you next time.